This is our first podcast of 2022. We basically, I don't want to say we took the month of January off, but we didn't take it off. We took it off from the podcast, but we didn't take it off. We've been working on some major changes to our software, new dashboard analytics tool was released last week. It's been updated or pushed out to just about all of our clients right now. And we're going to do a whole review of that in our next podcast. But today we just wanted to get back into the more topical stuff. And one of the things that we've been looking at is some of the data that's been coming out about the recovery from the pandemic, specifically related to the hospitality industry. We've been subscribing to a newsletter which is published by Morning Consult, and they push out some data each week, or they push out a newsletter, I should say, each week. I'm just going to grab that and we can just go through a few things. So they've been publishing this weekly newsletter. It's called the Weekly Update, Tracking the Return to Normal. And it's based on a tracker study or tracker survey they run each week with 2,200 US citizens, and the methodology it seems proper. It's representative of the US population. Age ranges are correct and so forth. And hopefully all the geography is balanced as well. We're going to make the assumption that is true without digging in too deeply about that. And
are they just travelers?
No, it's just
the general
how people are feeling about our return to normal. And so this week, in this week's, we'll go through some highlights and we can just discuss some of them. So it's interesting, the first thing that they published on this week was the net approval among registered voters for the CDC's handling of the coronavirus. And I don't know if I would have led off with something that's has some political undertone to it, I guess, right. But they chose to. And their point is that it fell too low. Net approval, it's still plus 14, meaning 54% approve of how the CDC is handling things, and 40% disapprove. So 54 minus 40, net 14. This probably is, you can dive into it more and see where that new low is coming from. We talked about this the other day a little bit, how the CDC recently came out with a guideline saying that really 5 days, if you're diagnosed with COVID, before you get out.
When did that survey come?
Well, they say it's weekly, so we're assuming that they're releasing the data.
I mean, it's important for our conversation. It's important to know when those questions were asked compared to when the change from the CDC came out. Because if those numbers are reflective of the change, then they'll mean one thing. If they're not, they'll mean another.
So I think it's within the last 10 days, because within the body of the article, if you dig in farther, they talk about a change from mid-January. So I believe it's since that 5-day.
Okay, but that's important to think about those results. Agreed. I wonder the reasoning behind the change. Is it strictly a science-based reason? I kind of, being a little bit cynical about things these days, I wonder if it was sort of an accommodation to the side of the fence that they're trying to encourage to follow mandates and to wear masks and take vaccines. And if the restriction is 5 days instead of 10, that might be more acceptable to some of the antis of the world. And that might have been influential in that decision. I'm sure I'm going to backtrack for a second and say, I'm sure it's science-based. They wouldn't make it up out of the clear blue sky, but it still may be a little bit political.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with what you just said. The other part of it is that we're having labor issues in a lot of industries. Hospitality is just one of them. Even
True.
school districts don't have enough teachers to come in because many are getting sick. And I mean, maybe that's part
Many
of
are
it.
retiring.
I'm sorry.
Many are deciding not to work.
Yeah, but
Teachers as well.
But if people are sick and they have to wait 10 days instead of 5 days, it's five, you're prolonging the period where people are out. So again, trying to get people back to work quickly, is that part of it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. But
I mean, the whole labor force issue and the difficulties in hiring workers, that is, pretty out there these days. Also, the cynical side of me, from the business community, if they're getting by with less labor force and less costs, and their business is doing okay or well, there are many businesses out there that are doing very well. It's a way to save money and increase your profits. You can't deny that.
Yeah, using it as a crutch, maybe. I don't know. And then
No. As I'm saying is, if I can get away with providing less service as a business and justify it by saying I have labor force issues, when I really do have the wherewithal to hire more labor,
if you can find it.
I get it. It's not a simple black and white issue, but a lot of people are looking for work. If you're looking to hire people, I believe if you look hard enough and are willing to pay, excuse me, you'll find labor.
Well, yeah, that's the other part of the equation, willing to pay. There's been a big push to a livable wage for all jobs, not just,
So as a business owner, if I don't want to pay this new livable minimum wage, and I'm getting away with I'm not losing customers because my service is poor, because they accept it and understand that in general, service is poor because of labor problems right now.
During these times.
What's my incentive to fill my needs?
Right. I mean, you pointed out that there are many businesses doing well, but there's also many businesses that are not doing well. So to those businesses, the ability to cut costs by reducing staff, reducing services, and being able to lean on the idea that that's okay in these times is probably part of that as well. Let's just dive into a couple more things in this morning consult thing. So in this week's survey, 59% of Americans said they are comfortable going on vacation, and that's up 3 percentage points from last week. Again, this is a weekly poll, so yes, this is this week. But that's still down 6 points from the July 4th high of 65%. So
right.
The net difference between the best time since they started doing this in this return to normal poll was this 65% of Americans said they were comfortable going on vacation. Now we're at 59%, and there was a low somewhere in between. Thoughts?
I think it would be interesting to know what the motivation was for the change. If it's a belief in the vaccines are working, people are wearing masks, the standards out there are better, I'm safer out there, and therefore there's an increase in people going out and traveling and eating in restaurants or going to stores. That means one thing. But there's also, I think, a significant amount of people, and I admit readily I'm one of them. I'm suffering a little bit of COVID fatigue. I got to get out there. I'm getting out there more and more simply because I'm tired of not getting out there. And I'm tired of staying home when I want to go and do things. And that might be a significant difference in the motivation of why that number increased. And by the way, that's not a very big number.
Yeah, no, 65%. Yeah.
No, the change, the increase in the amount of people who.
I'm sorry.
And if so, I can almost see that small increase can be due to simple COVID fatigue. I want to get out there. I got to live. It's time. I got to, take my precautions, wear my mask, and I'll go out, where 6 months ago I did not feel that way.
Well, I think that part of the reason that it ticked down from the high of July to at some point, a month or so ago, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the low was. They went from 65%. We know it was as low as 56 because it's up 3 to 59. I think some of that, at least probably a good amount of that, is due to the Omicron variant, which became more.
100%. Right.
And I would imagine that, coupled with what you're saying, the idea that for many people who are vaccinated and boosted, it's shown that they're not going to get very sick. So they've decided, to your point, that they want to live their lives, and that's a risk that they're willing to take at this point. It's interesting. One other thing that you just said that just made me think of this. Like, we've said, not on our podcast, but to each other over the course of these last almost 2 years now, like, it's tougher on younger people, I think, than it is on us, and they're missing out on their teens, 20s, 30s. Pick an age group that's significantly younger than us at this point, and at some point, they're young, they're healthier in general than people in our age group. At some point, the risk became they chose to live their lives at some point before we did.
Right.
And now, what you just said, COVID fatigue. This is a little dark, but how much more time do we want to waste, right? Tomorrow's not guaranteed for anybody, and
that's true,
right?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true,
right?
Definitely true. But it wouldn't have happened without the relatively recent news that our bodies can handle the variant with the booster and the vaccine without getting seriously sick.
Right.
I mean, that's the huge factor.
Right. And it looks like we're going to have to live with COVID for quite some time, and it's all going to be a matter of analyzing risk and deciding what's worth.
Yeah. I mean, today, so the thought is that the variant or COVID in general will become like the common cold or the flu. Do you think about the flu? I mean, you get a flu shot, I get a flu shot. But other than that, do you think, it's flu season? Do I have to change my way of life? Do I have to change my activities?
No.
You never did. I never did. But maybe now, with the awakening we all have gotten from COVID, wearing masks on an airline flight, I wouldn't mind doing that forever. If it helps me, I have no problem with that. Staying out of crowds, social distancing in certain instances, that's fine with me. Maybe because I'm not 20 something and I've been there, done all that. But in my life right now, changes that COVID brought on in general are fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. Yeah, never thought twice about not living our lives about when the flu was out and there were bad strains. Right. Every few years you would hear about a bad strain, and I didn't get a flu shot every year. I have been getting them on and off, and I certainly did this year, and I will probably continue to. But people die of the flu each year, and never crossed my mind. Right? Never crossed my mind. No. So yeah, I think getting back to your original point, there is fatigue going on here, and that's why we're seeing some of those numbers go up. We'll go on. I guess I'll give you one more we can just talk about real quickly. And then I just wanted to share some of our data that we're seeing as well. But actually, let's do that now real quick. So, so comfort with travel has ticked up. So I just pulled some numbers off of some of our surveys. Like I don't know if we've ever talked about this in the podcast, but we started introducing a series of questions for our hotel clients back. I think we first introduced it in like June or July of 2020, a couple months after the pandemic. We still had hotel customers that were operating.
We didn't know that, we thought that might be the beginning of the end at that point. So it was timely at that time.
It was. We thought we were tracking the return to normal in June of 2020. I guess we were tracking the beginning of the return to normal. But at that time, many of our clients were shut down. Some were operating, and we started introducing these questions. And one of the questions was, we wanted to understand how comfortable travelers were with the idea, how concerned they were, I should say, they were prior to arriving at the hotel, how concerned they were about staying healthy while they were staying at the hotel.
Conditions at the hotel, right.
Yeah, let me just read the actual text of the text of the question is, COVID-19 has impacted how we live, work, and travel. Prior to arrival at the hotel, how concerned were you about the hotel providing a safe environment to stay healthy? And based on our conversation today was going to be about this tracker study that we're looking at, that Morning Consult is putting out. So I went back and I looked at 3 time periods to see what we were seeing from our client base in these questions. So in the last month, January of 2022, 30.8% of travelers to hotels that we service had some concern, at least some concern about staying healthy while being at the hotel. Going back 3 months prior to that, it was 52%. So that's October. So that's sort of when Omicron was sort of emerging and being a little bit of a threat, not a little bit, but a threat. And then going back to July, 3 months before that, it was 49%. So we did see that a slight uptick from the summer, but right now we're showing the lowest that we've seen in quite some time. Really? So I just thought that was interesting. And then some of the other stuff that they talk about in the Morning Consult is not necessarily related to travel, but just, again, living your lives. Going on vacation was the one that I wanted to sort of make sure we hit today. That's really all I wanted to talk about today. All right. Well, this will be
good seeing you again.
Yeah. Kick off to the 2022 episodes of the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching. And next week, we'll dive into some details of some of the new tools that we were sort of consumed with over the last month as we started up the new year.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Be well.
All right.